Hello, and welcome to another presentation of Lean Apps. So in this presentation, we're going to see how do you define your minimum viable product. So let's start. I'm Narjeet. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lean Apps. These are some of the hashtags I go along with: Lean innovation, design thinking, agile, and digital transformation. And these are some of the customers I've worked in the past. So to define an MVP, we've used a tool called Mural, M-U-R-A-L, and I've created, let me just open this view, and we've created this kind of a different user journeys, which will be used to display how we define the MVP today. And this basically consists of three things. Let me zoom it out. So we're going to define the existing user journey. We're going to define the to-be user journey and do some story mapping, and then it'll define the MVP. And we'll also talk about concierge model and what that means. Okay, let me just zoom into step number one. So in our last video, we were taking a taxi example, so we'll keep it there. So it's an Uber example, and let's say we're trying to solve a problem like it's a pre-Uber era where taxi apps did not exist, and we were kind of ordering taxi on phone. And so we'll try to define the user journey before any Uber or any taxi app was there. So the first step to define an existing user journey is you will first define or identify all the types of users you will be dealing with within your idea. So in this case, I would define it as very simple: rider and driver. There could be more, but for this presentation, we'll keep it simple. Then what we're going to do is we'll try to pick up the first user type, which is rider, and try to define his complete user journey. And please note that this is something where Uber or any taxi app does not exist. This is pre-Uber era we're talking about. So at that time, we'll start writing for this rider, what are his goals? What is he trying to achieve? So his simple goal is he wants to travel from point A, probably where he is today, to point B. That's the simple goal what this rider has. Now, to achieve these goals, there are different tasks which this user does, and we're going to identify all those different tasks which this user goes through. So imagine there is no app. So what you will do is you will book a cab. You'll call a taxi service and try to call them, hey, I'm on point B. I would need a taxi to go to the airport or to the railway station or anywhere in the city. Or the second way you would get a taxi is you will go to a taxi stand and get a taxi from there. So these were the two. This was basically the task you would do to get a taxi. The second step would be you would actually jump into a taxi. You're sitting in a taxi and you're now traveling from point A to point B. That's riding in a taxi. And the last part of the journey, the user journey, is that you have finished your ride. You're on point B, and now you have to pay to the taxi driver for the ride. So this is the last task you will do, and that basically achieves that you're from point A, you've reached to point B. That achieves your goal. Now, the next step, what you're going to do is, what are the pain points of this user in this user journey, what he is going through, the task he's going through. So we'll try to identify the pain points in each and every task. So for this one, we just picked up from our head. So for booking a taxi, he's not sure of the availability beforehand. He probably has to need to book it in advance. He's not sure how long would it take for a taxi driver to come to me. And probably if you're taking it from the taxi stand, there could be long queues at the stand. So these were different pain points we identified. There could be more, so you can add as many as you want. But to go to the second step, while riding the taxi, what are my pain points? So as a rider, I'm not sure who this driver is. I'm also wondering whether he's safe. And this happens a lot when you're in the other city. You're thinking that, is he taking the right road? Is he cheating me? Is he traveling, going around in circles and I'm paying more for this? So it's always, you're always unsure of these things. And you're also not sure of the condition of the car you're sitting in. So you can, again, as I said, you can keep on adding more if you feel like. Then the last step of the journey is you pay for the taxi, you pay for the ride. So the pain points in that step is you can't pay by credit card. There are times where you have a bigger currency, but there is no change with the taxi driver. So you're basically going to different shops, trying to buy something, get a change, and pay him. And if the whole overall journey in the taxi was not you didn't enjoy it, or you had some complaints, you're not sure, how do I complain against this guy? How do I make these drivers liable? So these were the different pain points we identified. As I said, again, keep on adding more if you find more. Okay, so you've got goals of this driver, goal for a rider. You've got the task. You've got pain points in each step or each task. Next step, what you're going to do is you're going to prioritize those pain points. So mark the ones which you want to solve immediately. So maybe we've just marked it as a red. So we just want to pick up these pain points to solve. We want to solve them first before we go to the next other pain points. So this is how you basically go through the existing user journey. Now, as a second step, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up, so you know now all the pain points. You want to get the solution for this. So this is where the brainstorming of the solution will start. So the whole team would be in the room and they will start thinking of what should be my future solution. What kind of solution do I want to build to solve all the pain points we have identified? Basically the ones we are marked in red for the first round. So after brainstorming, we just came up with this. This is kind of very close to what Uber app is or other taxi apps do. So for a rider, what we want to build is he should have these tasks to be done. So he registers. So before that, so we've zeroed on that we want to build a mobile app, and these are the tasks which a rider would do on the mobile app. So he'll register. He will log in. He'll be able to see the taxis around him. He can book a taxi directly from the app and then pay and rate the driver. So these are all the different tasks we want them to do in our future solution. Now, as a next step, what we want to do is we want to define further user stories or features which we want to build for each step, and that's what we want to do. Now, to answer those things, what we can do is we can try to start answering these questions. So when I'm on registration, I would start questioning what is the user most likely do next. So what is the next step after registration, after login, after I see the taxis? So this will help you define the flow as well. And to kind of detail the particular step, I can think of what mistakes could a user make here. So what can he do? What can go wrong with registration? What could confuse the user at this point? What could go, he's seeing the taxis, what could confuse him at this step? Any additional information the user might want to see in the app at a particular step. So if you start answering these questions, you will be able to detail out the user stories or features for each and every step. So just taking an example here now. Just one point to note. Here, don't think of whether we're building this or not. It's just whatever comes to your mind on that particular step, and you think it will be useful for the user, just add it as an item here, down here. So I'll just start with an example. So for registration, I'm thinking we can register with email, we can register with Facebook, we can register with Google, and if we are registering with email, we have the whole confirmation cycle of when I put my email, I receive a notification, I click on a link, and my email is confirmed. So this is what I think should registration look like. Login, something very similar, that we can log in with email, Facebook, or Google. And then if I forget my password, this is what mistakes could a user make here. He can forget his password. So we have a forget password option there. The next we are saying is so he can see the taxis around. So this could be a list of taxis. This could be taxis on a map lined up, and I can see the exact location. I can see the taxi details, how the taxi is, what is the make, condition of the taxi. I can see the details of the driver, what's his name, what's his age, whatever we want to see there. We can also add how far the taxi is from me, and if I kind of book this right away, how much time it would take to come. So it's in kilometers or meters, or this is in time. So, and you can keep on adding more, whatever ideas come to your mind. Same for booking a taxi. You can select a taxi. The rider can confirm this. Yes, I need this taxi. The driver can confirm on his side, and I, as a rider, receive that driver confirmation. I can track the driver, that where he is on the map coming towards me. I can call that driver. I can also cancel a booking if required. On the payment step, I can confirm the amount. I can probably add a tip if I want to, and then I can pay. And you can detail this into further, like I can pay by credit card, I can pay by PayPal, I can pay by Bitcoin, so whatever you want to add. Rating, again, on the rating step, it's a simple 5-star rating versus you can have 10, 15 different steps to rate the driver. So you can keep on adding as long as you have more and more stories, what you can think of. So this basically defines your kind of vision of the complete product, right? So after this, once that is done, what you want to do is, as a third step, you want to define an MVP. So MVP is minimum viable product. So this is my first version, which I want to ship to the customer, and he can start using my product. And I can start validating my idea and my solution as well with real data, with the real usage of the data. So I'm just thinking, like, usually when you're defining MVP, try to write one goal which you want to achieve. So I've written it, we're trying to measure whether riders will use the app to order cab instead of calling their service provider or taking a cab from the stand. So I want more and more users to use my app to order a taxi. That's what I want to measure. So just to do that, what I'm going to do is, now, whatever we have built as a whole solution, we'll try to mark the things which I don't need in version number 1, considering this is my goal, right? So in registration, if I'm able to register via email, that's good enough to start. Facebook and Google are nice to have. It is a good user experience, but email is enough for me. And that's where it can go. Or you can just say, I just do Google, rest everything can come later. That depends on your user base you're going to target. You, again, login will be similar, that I only log in with email and I have a forget password. For taxis, I don't have to necessarily see all the taxis on the map. Yes, it looks nice, it's great. But if I have a list of taxis which are kind of aligned with how far they are from me, good enough to start. I can just see my taxis. And I only want to book a taxi and get a confirmation that it's booked. The driver is coming. That's good enough for me. Tracking the driver, calling a driver, canceling a booking can always come later. And then I just want to pay, and we can choose, probably, let's say we just say pay by credit card, PayPal, your Bitcoins and stuff like that can come later. I just want one way of paying, and I can just, whatever amount it is, I'm able to pay that. That will be good enough for me. And rating itself can come later. The whole feature can come later, because that's necessarily, even if it's not here, rating is not here, I'm still able to achieve my initial goal, which is that travel from point A to point B. So this itself will give me that, will help me meet that goal. So now that you have defined your MVP, you just basically, this is what you're going to build now as a version number 1 and bring it out to the customer. Now, very important thing, remember, this is only the rider. So we have defined. So we have to do the same exercise for the driver. Now, here is where I'm going to define a concierge model. I'll explain you what it is. So because this is a two-sided market, that there is one side there is a rider and the other side there is a driver. So we might need 2 different products here, and we have to do this exercise for each user type. Now, if that's the case, sometimes what we do is, because we are in the validation stage and we just want to know how many people actually order the taxi, what we can do is just, let me move this here. Yeah, what we want to do is, we can also do that there is a concierge, which is basically not a complete and fully functional MVP. This could be like, I create some kind of fake taxi list and give it to my customer. We can also skip this part where I'm confirming, doing the confirmation via driver. All I'm giving is, there is a list of taxis around me. I have a distance from me. Could be fake as well. Doesn't have to be real. You can have, I can select a taxi and I can just simply confirm my booking. And if that's the case, if that's what you want to test, how many people actually order taxi from your app, then in the backend, what you can do is, don't build any driver app. Simple. That's a concierge model. So everything in the backend is totally manual on the first step. So what we can do is once on this our rider app, the rider confirms that I want this taxi. Let's imagine that there's an email that goes and somebody manually is monitoring that email that there is a new request coming from XYZ user for a taxi. Now this guy can start calling people, call taxi companies to try to book the taxi. And it's not a great user experience. It's all manual at the back end. And if once the taxi is confirmed, he can call back the user or the rider that your taxi is confirmed and it'll be there in 10, 15, 20 minutes. So it's still the same experience, what that guy can do, but you're able to measure how many people actually order taxi from your app before you build the driver side of business. So this is called concierge model. So it's kind of for a user, it seems like that it is a real service, that everything is kind of automated or semi-automated, but in the back end, everything is still manual before we actually automate it. So this is something you can do as well. Now, coming back to the presentation, so this is all about how you define your MVP. Here's another example. It's from Mike Kahn, who does a lot of presentations on Agile. So I picked up from one of his presentations. This is another, you can say, user journey. So this is kind of, I think, a system which helps you report your expenses. So these are different steps identified here. So you log in, you start a new expense report, you enter your expenses, you attach your receipts, and you submit it for approval. So this is all the steps which a user is doing who is probably submitting an expense report. And then they detail out each and every step. So here you can say you can start a new blank expense report. So it's a completely fresh new, you say start new, and it's blank report, which you have to fill manually. Or, which will be pretty cool to have, is a feature where I'm able to copy an existing expense report. It saves me an effort, better user journey. On the attaching of receipts, I can attach existing PDFs or images, or it also gives me an option to scan a receipt directly, probably through my camera. So this is kind of another example, as I mentioned. So how you will define your MVP? So your initial release, login. So if I have a blank expense report to begin with, that does my job. That is good enough for me. And this is a nice to have, or it'll be I want it soon because it's pretty cool. It saves me an effort. So, but it doesn't have to be necessarily go in version number 1 or in my MVP. Same as in the case of scanning a report, scanning a receipt. It's nice to have. I can scan the receipts from my camera. But if I have PDFs and images already available, I can just attach. That's good enough to do all my tasks which are defined here. So this is another example of how you can define an MVP. That's it for now. If you have any questions, drop me an email. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Thanks for your time. Until next video. Thank you. Bye.